All right, looks like we are live. Good afternoon and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my tiny little YouTube channel. I am your host, Roberto Boteo, and this is going to be my spoiler free Dune review. Basically, what that means is that I'm going to be talking about Dune in a non spoiler way. I'm not going to be giving away any details about the plot. So this is basically just going to be me giving my opinions, so that way it could possibly help you decide whether or not you want to go out and see Dune or get HBO Max and check it out at home at your convenience. But after seeing this movie on both platforms, I can honestly say that I do recommend seeing this movie in IMAX. It's completely something else. You feel like you are actually transported into the world of Dune. And the first thing I want to start off talking about here is movie theaters really need to start cutting back on how many trailers they start showing before a movie. Our movie was supposed to start at 6:45 and they didn't start until about 7:10, so that's 25 minutes of trailers. And I mean, I love trailers as much as the next person, but if you tell me that a movie is going to start at 6:45, I feel like maybe you should go ahead and start that movie at 6:45, if not maybe 10 minutes later. But 25 minutes of trailers to me is just kind of stealing the customer's time. I believe maybe one day they'll try to work around that. But enough of that. That's really the only negative thing outside of the Dune movie. Going into the Dune movie, I have to say that this cast, while absolutely stacked, delivered. Every single character was on point. Nobody missed a beat except for one person, which I'll get to in a little bit. But every single person looked phenomenal in this movie. They brought their A game. They did the absolute best that they could. And this movie, to me, is really Timothy Chalamet's and Rebecca Ferguson's movie. Timothy Chalamet plays the lead role of Paul Atreides. He's the son of Duke Leto, played by the phenomenal Jared Leto. And basically, Duke Leto is the ruler of House Atreides. They are on the planet, I can't remember at the time right now, where it's full of water and full of greenery. Then they've harnessed air power and water power, and now the Emperor, who is starting to become a little jealous of the Duke, sends out the Duke to Arrakis, or AKA Dune, to take over this spice mining organization that they're digging up in order to profit off of the spice. They send Duke Leto and his whole family to Arrakis, so that way they can basically go ahead and take out the whole entire family, because he's becoming too popular politically. It's in the trailers. It's not a spoiler. You'll find out for yourself if you just take a moment and watch that trailer. Really well done. And as I said, this movie really was Timothy Chalamet, Paul Atreides, and Rebecca Ferguson, Lady Jessica, who also did a phenomenal job. I don't know if you're familiar with the 1984 Dune films, but obviously it's going to be dated since it was in 1984. But this particular role with Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, I thought stood out much more. Go figure, with an older movie comparison, but she really stood out. Her powers that you find out she has were very, very interesting. Find out that Paul has also got the same powers, and her and her covenant, what do they call them? Gosh, I can't remember the names. The Bene Gesserits who work from the shadows. She's one of them. You can also find that in the trailers. It's not a secret. They're she's basically got her own objective, which you will find in the movie. And another thing that I want to point out before I go any further in this review is that I feel like a lot of people are going to think that this movie is going to be an action-packed epic, and it is not an action-packed epic. It's a very slow burn, but I will say I've dealt and watched with movies with slow burns. Even though it's a slow burn, you're hooked on the story because of the world building, the character development, the moments that certain characters have with one another, along with sprinkled very well done action, make this film very, very, I want to say complex. I don't want to say too complex, but it is a very complex movie that I feel really won't be for everybody, because they're going to be expecting something and be presented with something completely different. So I want to go ahead and get that out of the way right now, saying it is not an action-packed epic. It's what it's supposed to be. It's good storytelling. You sit down, you relax, you watch the world that they're building, and you watch the characters that they present to you and see how they develop and become a more integral part of maybe future movies, because this is supposed to be part 1 of 3, I believe. And if this film does well, we'll get a part 2 and a part 3. So, continuing on with the cast, I also really liked Gurney, played by... I don't think I put... Oh, here he is. Gurney, played by Josh Brolin. Pull that up here. He did a very good job. He was kind of in the movie limitedly, but for the amount of time that he was actually in the film, I enjoyed him. And on that note, another character that you don't really see a lot of is Batista, playing the Harkonnen's nephew. I didn't really care for Batista in this role. In the original, the nephew, the Beast, had a little more to do and say, though that was a combination of the books put together and rushed, so maybe we're not supposed to see that much of him. But this entire movie, for the limited amount of time that he was in it, I kind of felt like he was just being Batista, walking like Batista, talking like Batista. So I didn't get enough to really have a fair opinion on his character, other than me saying he was just kind of there and did Batista things, which is a little unfortunate, but it's not really his fault. The movie really wasn't supposed to be centered around him anyway. And on that note, I gotta say, no, not that one. Stellan Skarsgård. Man, this guy is so menacing and such a douchey mother sack of crap. I loved Stellan Skarsgård in here as the Baron. He is ruthless. He's disgusting. Just think of the most richest, powerful douchebag in the entire world. Knows he can do whatever he wants because he's got all this protection, he's got all this money, and at the same time he's very grotesque. I loved the Baron in this movie. Stellan Skarsgård in that fat suit worked wonders. He was the exact perfect person to play Baron Harkonnen, and I cannot wait to see more of the Baron in future movies. Another character that I thought worked really well with him was David Dastmalchian. David Dastmalchian as the Harkonnen's little right-hand man, Pitter. He was really good too. Dastmalchian's been popping up in a lot of movies lately. He's also in Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man. The first time I ever saw him and really recognized him was from The Dark Knight back in 2008. That's the first time I ever saw him. So I'm glad to see Dastmalchian popping up in a lot of movies. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. I kind of thought he was gonna bring too much Aquaman, where whenever I first saw images and scenes from Aquaman's trailer, he was a little too bro for me. But once I actually saw the Aquaman movie, I accepted and I could see Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And that kind of really worried me because I thought to myself, he's probably just going to bring the Aquamanisms into this and say he's Duncan Idaho. Not the case. Jason Momoa worked with the character very brilliantly. And quite frankly, I'm kind of surprised that, well, he's had a lot more acting experience than Batista, but I'm surprised that Jason Momoa was able to work with this character, even though he was given a lot better than Batista seemed to do. However, I feel like that's not really fair because, as I said before, Batista was not really given a whole bunch of material to work with. But Duncan Idaho, played by Jason Momoa, worked out phenomenally for me. Another character I don't think I touched on was the Reverend Mother, played by Charlotte Rampling. She brought a lot of mysteriousness to the Reverend Mother and to the Bene Gesserit cult as a whole. Whenever she's putting Paul Atreides through that test with the box pudding and making him feel pain, I enjoyed how the limited amount of time she was also in this movie. Excuse me. Javier Bardem as Stakar was, again, with the stacked cast, you only have so much time in order to give everybody screen time. For the limited time that Javier Bardem was in this movie, he did phenomenally. I believed he was the leader of the Fremen whenever you meet him for the first time, meeting Duke Leto. It's kind of funny. I'm not going to go into any specifics. It's not a spoiler or anything. It's just a little exchange that they have. It was quite funny. I can't wait for you guys to see that yourselves. And one person that I completely forgot to touch on because she's not in this movie so much, but is heavily featured in the trailers, is Zendaya as Chani. You only see Zendaya in this movie for a total of, I want to say, maybe 10-15 minutes in the entire movie. That's probably pushing it, but I got a feeling, judging from the 1984 film, she'll be heavily featured a lot more in the actual film if they get a second one. But even though she wasn't heavily featured in this film, she still did an okay job playing the character. Not really feeling anything for Paul Atreides yet because they just met, so I enjoyed her character very, very much. And overall, this movie was very, very entertaining. As I've said before, it is a slow burn. You gotta understand that this is not like Star Wars. It's not like any Marvel film that you have ever seen. It's not about the action. It's about the characters. It's about the world building. It's about the story. And you don't make these great movies whenever your sole focus is, just vomiting up action and explosions. That's not what this movie is. I don't want to say intellectual movie because that, to me, that's saying unless you're smart, you really won't understand and get this movie. And that's not the case at all. If you've never seen the 1984 film, I'm not really sure how you will understand this movie, but it's heavily political for the politics that are inside the movie. It's got religion. It's got very well done action, and I will say it's not for everybody. Oh, a character that I forgot to talk about. Chang Chen as Dr. Yui was really good. Again, he's in the movie very minimally, but if you've seen the 1984 film, you know the role of Dr. Yui, and I thought he did a very good job. And that's all I can really say because I don't want to give anything else away. And another thing, the worms. You only see the worms a few times, but man, when when they come on screen, you feel their presence. These things on the biggest screen possible in IMAX look so intimidating. And I loved the worm shots that we got in this movie. I know I'm going to say this movie a lot, but bear with me. I'm trying not to say the word all the time. But overall, I really loved this film, and I'm hoping that a lot of people will go out to the theaters and support this film, not check it out for the first time on HBO Max. I understand you would rather pay less and watch it at home from the comfort of your own couch, but you can do that any day of the week. It's best to see this movie on the absolute biggest screen possible so you can feel like you have been transported to Arrakis, so that way you can feel like you're at the planet of Harkonnen. It's amazing. And this movie also makes for a good SMR. Whenever they have those silent moments of just listening to the rain or listening to the sand blow from the wind, it's very, very hypnotic, I guess would be the right word, if you were to just close your eyes and listen to those sounds. I believe they have ASMR or whatever sound videos you would listen to on whatever app. They have those Dune sound effects for you to listen to. But overall, I gotta say, I absolutely loved this movie, and I recommend you check it out at least one time. It's not going to be for everybody. One last time, it's a slow burn. Do not expect to go into this movie and from right out of the get see laser beams and explosions. Take a step back, sit down, relax, enjoy the wonderful world building and storytelling and character development that you get with this film. And if you can do that, I do feel you can enjoy this film tremendously. It is an accomplishment, and I hope this movie does well so that way we can get a sequel in the future. But that's going to do it for me, guys. What do you guys think about Dune? Have you seen it yet? Are you reserved about seeing it until maybe you can afford it at home? Or are you afraid of COVID still? Are you trying to get out and see it in IMAX? If you do, let me know in the comment sections down below what you thought about this movie. And until next time,